Добрый день! Сегодня мы встречаемся в студии Энди Аскома. Это форматор. Мы, скульптора, редко формуем свои работы. Мы прибегаем к помощи профессионалов. Сегодня мы в этой замечательной мастерской, где Энди отформует наш портрет и отольет его в материале. Материал может быть любой. Сегодня мы делаем самый дешевый материал. Это гипс.
These are two types of spatula. They're called a leaf end because they're like a leaf end spatula. And they're good for scooping up the plaster as it starts to thicken up and smearing it onto the mould. These are called metal kidneys, flexible metal kidneys, partly because that looks like and is shaped like a kidney. And they are also good for scraping the surface of the plaster. This is called a surform. This is very good for scraping and shaping plaster, and when that gets clogged up in there, we just go like that and the plaster falls out of the bottom. Ready for the next go. This is the canvas that we used to strengthen the back of the mould, as you saw. This is the soft soap that we painted onto the surface of the plasticine, and also you need to paint onto the surface of the plaster, otherwise the plaster will stick to itself. That's very important. And this is just, although it's in a Nivea, this is grease that I smeared around the base so it's easier to clean the wood, clean the plaster off. This is the...
We used it in the beginning.
It's called plasti-shim. And it's vacuum formed sheets of clear plastic that's very thin, that has dimples. That's a negative dimple, and that's the positive dimple. And that means that when the two pieces of plaster in the mould come together, they will lock exactly into place. So it's very convenient to have these sharp scalpel. And that's it. Yes, we use sellotape to stick the two sides of the shim together. Sticky back sellotape. That's very good. And over here we have our two bags of plaster. They're both hard, but this one's slightly harder. That one's called ceramicast, and this one's called fine casting plaster. But the best tool we have are my hands.
So let's start and explain our students the process of making a mold.
Plaster mould.
Plaster mold.
Okay.
Exactly.
Here we go. Right, we're going to make a front half and a back half.
Right.
So I decide where I'm going to split it. So what I'll do is I'll put a very thin line in here all the way around with my scalpel, and the reason for that is I can then put my plastic shim into this scored line. Like that. And then we have plastic shim which has a little indentation in it. And we push it into that scored line. It's a very quick way of making a division.
Do you buy these plastic bits or you are making them yourself?
These I get from my supplier, and my supplier supplies resin, plaster, rubber, wax.
So, in other words, our students can get them easily.
Yes, and they don't
In an art shop.
have to use this. They could use something like you see up there. If you pull that down, that shim.
This one.
I could use that instead, but it doesn't have the dimple.
Yeah, dimple is important.
Dimple is important because it means the two pieces of the plaster mould fit together. Yes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the way around, and then I'll put some shim around there so it's the same level as the wood at the front.
Great. Okay.
So then you have to sellotape the back into position. So it's all nice and tight. So what I've done is I've obviously done all this, but it's too wide. So with my pair of scissors, I'll cut it so it's only about that far away from the dots.
Okay.
Which means, otherwise you make a plaster mould.
They're thick.
That would be huge,
Huge,
you know.
yeah.
So you don't want that.
So this shield is done. What's
next?
Yeah, what's next?
Well, because we want this to be the same height all the way round,
Absolutely.
I'll be doing just a little bit of shim around the back and maybe a little bit here,
Good.
just to make it all level. And you don't need the dimple in for that. And obviously what I've done is I've greased all of the wood and the metal and all of this around here, because when
Greased with what?
just lard or butter or grease, anything that's slippery, and because where the plaster will land on this, and it's easier to scrape it off if there's a bit of grease on there.
Of course.
It's always good to have little skis underneath, so that if you want to move it, it's easier to get your fingers underneath to turn it around. Right, now we're ready to put the plaster on, and I always do the back first because then I know how long it'll take with the amounts of plaster I need. But if you're doing the back, it doesn't matter, you can do the back or the front first, it doesn't matter. But whichever side that you don't do, you have to cover with cling film.
Hello everyone, it's our last lesson today. We are with this amazing woman, amazing sculptress, Christine Koval-Post. Christine, I hope today today you will give us a few tips.
Yeah.
How to be an artist, probably young students.
Starting off.
Yeah.
And advice for them.
Advice.
Yeah, well, I think there are not many artists who survive through selling their work. So for everybody it's going to be different. You have to find a way through what will happen to you through your artistic life. But as I've said before, you have to be completely focused on what you want to achieve, and you just have to keep going along that track. And it's quite frankly, it's a rocky road for everybody, because as an artist you have to be not only making the work, which is the primary thing, you need the space first of all to make the work. So everybody needs, as Virginia Woolf wrote in her book, a room of one's own. You need a space to make the work, and that is a sacrosanct thing. You need the space.
Sometimes young artists, they don't have a space because they are not supported by their families, or they're on their own, or from poor families. Shall we put it like they need to use any opportunity to get a residency?
Any opportunity, or rent a garage, which is what I did.
Okay.
You know, a back garden with a canopy, a room in your house, any space, depends on the work that you're doing. But that is, and you need support, and you will have to support yourself for long periods. So it's a rocky road, but at the same time, you will find the rewards, you will find them fantastic, because art is the thing that will enrich your life immeasurably, and it will give you the freedom to express yourself in no other occupation can give you. So you have that freedom to do exactly as you want to do, and let's face it, it's a huge privilege to be able to do that. So I feel immense gratitude for the possibilities that I have had.
I still think that sometimes space in your own house, it's not the best. So for example, you rent a garage. I went to many residencies. So when it was paid because of your work, because you are trying hard, and it feeds your self-esteem that many other people think you are a valuable artist. And also I can recommend to participate in different competitions.
Oh yeah, competitions, sponsorship, residencies, workshops, collaborations, they're really good. So collaborating with other artists. And also, I think embracing IT, because that's where the future is now. So you have to embrace every opportunity that you get, and you will find that it snowballs. So networking, social media, that's where we are now, and we should use that, and as I say, embrace it. So you never know where one opportunity is going to lead, and if you have the possibility to work with someone, or have an exhibition or a residency or anything like that, one experience will possibly lead to another experience. So just take any opportunities, any doors that open, you walk in there basically.
It's very interesting what you just said, because from my life experience I realized just the same. Even one small exhibition, even one venue, and you are a little bit lazy to go, but finally you go there, you meet interesting people, you collaborate with them for the next big project. Even one small thing could lead you to completely another huge space.
Exactly. You have to, I think, ask yourself, when you're trying to find your path, what it is that you're passionate about in life. And I think once you've found that passion, you have to explore that, and you'll find that things do expand from that.
I like your points, being focused and have a support, because also from life I saw that sometimes multi-talented people they struggle most, they can't choose, and all their life they're kind of thinking and they're equally talented, but this choosing one thing,
Yeah.
for example, the wood,
Yeah. Yeah.
it helps enormously to make a huge progress.
Yeah. It's important to make a start. It's an adventure, basically. So you make a start and you see where it takes you. But yes, keep focused and don't forget your own confidence in yourself and in what you can achieve. You know in yourself that you want to express something, and you have to find the medium. You know, it could be IT, it could be wood, it could be stone, whatever, and you have to follow that and go through with it, and you will be, I think, rewarded by that.
So third key point is confidence.
Confidence, yeah, self-confidence, and that's possibly the most difficult thing, I think, for artists, because you get knocked back so many times. There are going to be disappointments, and as I said before, there are going to be failures, but you can learn from that, and you know, you can turn your failures into successes. You just keep on going, basically. You choose the road and you stick to it.
I see that during our conversations we didn't cover market side.
Yeah, you've got to be an accountant, you've got to be a marketing expert, you've got to do your own advertising, you've got to do your own PA work, and you've got to make the work. So you know, it's look, you're not going to make money out of this necessarily, but then if I wanted to make money, I would have been a banker.
So in other words, we're not talking about money during our lessons. We're talking about how to find yourself, how to make a progress in your profession, and this profession is to be an artist. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I've covered the face with cling film because I don't want the plaster to splash
Right.
onto it while I'm doing the back. And what I'm painting on here is something called soft soap. Now, you don't, it's just a guarantee that the plaster will come off the plasticine. Some people don't use it, but a lot of people do. It's a guarantee as a release. Just a very thin layer of soft soap. And then when we've got the soft soap on, we can start to apply the plaster of Paris. And I use 2 different types of plaster, and there's a reason for that. There's 2 sorts. One's harder and one's slightly softer. And when you're making a plaster piece mould, you have to chip off the plaster mould off your plaster cast. So you want the plaster cast to be a harder plaster,
Right.
and the mould to be a softer plaster, so you don't, hopefully, don't break the harder plaster cast. So what I do is, because you have to mix up plaster with your hands, and I put grease, or you can use hand cream, onto my hands.
Right.
Otherwise the plaster can
Yeah, grease.
stick.
I smell it.
Yeah, it can stick to your skin a bit, but that's all right, it will wash off. Some people use plastic gloves, but I don't like using it. I don't get a feel for it if I use plastic gloves.
Yeah.
So we're ready to go now. I have a bowl of water over here. And I use my softer plaster. It's called fine casting plaster. And you sprinkle it into your bowl of water until it's completely saturated with plaster powder. Sometimes I put a little bit of the harder one in. They say you should add the dry powder plaster until you have little islands floating on the top, and then you know you put enough in. Like that. There we go, and then you wait for all of that dry to go wet. It's a little bit dry there.
I see.
And it's always handy that when you've mixed it, to have a bucket of water to wash your hands in quickly. It keeps everything clean then. You don't get plaster everywhere. Some people flick it with their fingers, but I like to paint it on. get it into all of the nooks and crannies.
But also pay attention, I just want to show our students that you did thicker along the border. Is it important?
Not everybody does it. I like to do that and build it up so I can make it into an area where a clamp will clamp the two halves of the mould together.
So canvases.
Just put the canvases around here. This just holds it all together.
Really small, sorry.
It's amazing how much stronger the plaster is when you put canvas into it.
Andy, I understand we're doing now simple molds. But normally, which materials do you prefer?
I like to make my moulds with silicone rubber, with a fiberglass case, although you can use a plastic case, which is this. But I prefer to use make rubber moulds, silicone rubber.
They're lighter.
Yes, but silicone is more expensive than plaster. But that's what I prefer to work with.
So we're almost done with the first half.
Yeah. Just clean it all up, make it look pretty, and then we can work on the other side. That's kind of it really, for this half. Okay.
So let's show our result.
Okay.
Our first half is done. Now it's about cleaning. We cleaned our tools and now our magical plaster flexible bowls. How do you do it?
It's all in the word flexible. Because the plaster's gone hard, we just...
And we need it.
And we need
hard.
it. Yeah, we need it hard. We just squeeze the bowl.
Easy.
And throw it away.
Bravo.
Now, what we've done, if we've left the plastic shim in place. So we leave that there. But we need to put some release on this plaster here. Because when we put plaster onto the surface here, some of it might splash onto that. And then again, it's difficult to get it off. So we will then paint soft soap onto that.
We made, what do we made?
We've made a two-piece plaster mould.
Amazing,
Back,
amazing result,
front.
amazing.
Laid over.
So last stage of this process will be?
Well, now the mould's made and the plaster has cooled down, which is important, we will now try to get
very cold, yeah.
two halves apart. And the way I do that is I use one of these spatulas, in fact 2 of these spatulas. Push it in there like that. Push the next one into it, next to it, like that.
It's moving.
And then put a chisel in between. Hang on. Just a question of prizing it apart. Which come in.
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, you read my mind just. At least we show how it works. Massive crack, I have to say.
I can repair that.
Yeah, you see, next time when we will be filling this mold with clay, these bits are really essential.
Okay. You can take this out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everything's in the bin. Okay.
I think that's as far as we can go, really. We should leave the front to go rock hard.
Yeah.
And I can repair this, that's easily done.
You see, we took apart this mold. This one's still slightly warm, so we can't take all plasticine out of it. We need to wait. You see this massive crack, it's the result of rushing the process. You need really wait at each stage. Later on, we will be taking out all plasticine and you can reuse it. I will be reusing it. Thank you for taking my course. All the best. Goodbye.